been legally married to Declan for 4 years, yet I've never stood by his side in a single official photograph taken at Granville. Before the winter social season began, he even took me to pick out a ring for his public fiancé, telling me it was just a 6-month family arrangement. At night, he would take off her engagement dress, return to the Elm Court apartment, slip our wedding rings back on, and continue to call me his wife. He believed that if I had loved him long enough, I would wait another 6 months. But he didn't know that once a certain identity is taken over by someone else, it can never be restored to its original state. As the consultant at Grey Heron Jewelry pushed the third ring box toward me, Declan was rubbing his left ring finger with his thumb. There was no ring there, only a faint white indentation. Last night, before bed, he was still wearing our wedding ring. "How about this one?" he asked. A blue-gray gemstone was set in a slender platinum band, with no unnecessary embellishments. It was very much the sort of thing Vivian Ashford would wear, understated, expensive, and requiring no ostentatious display to assert its status. I turned the ring box toward the light and studied it for a moment. The center stone sits too high. She chairs the winter social season committee, so she's constantly shaking hands and shuffling papers. It's easy for the fabric to snag on it. The jewelry consultant nodded immediately. "Miss Bell is right. We can lower the setting." Declan smiled, as if finally relieved. "I knew you'd know best." He was referring to the ring, not to Vivian, but I knew what he meant. Over the past 4 years, I'd picked out nearly every formal gift the Vaughn family had given, on his behalf. I knew Marianne preferred unscented white flowers, which Trustee was allergic to walnut wood, and that Declan didn't like ties with colors that were too bright for formal occasions. So when he needed an engagement ring for another woman, I was still the first person who came to mind. This was his most stable understanding of marriage. The person he presented to the world could change, but the one who cared for him in private could not. I closed the ring box and pointed to the one on the far right. "Choose this one." It was a crisply cut, colorless diamond, with 2 tiny obsidian stones set into the band. It bore no resemblance to the worn silver pattern encircling my wedding band. Declan looked at it for 2 seconds. "Are you sure? Didn't you ask me here precisely because you trust my judgment?" He detected the sharpness in my tone and leaned forward slightly. The jewelry consultant tactfully left the private consultation room. After the door closed, Declan lowered his voice. "Nora, tonight is just an engagement announcement. 6 months. Once the Board of Trustees completes its annual restructuring, I'll take care of it. How will you handle it? I'll end this arrangement, and then we'll go back to our old lives." Our old lives. On the top floor of Uding Apartments, there wasn't a single photo of the Vaughn family, nor were there any official visitor records. We got married at the Granville Private Marriage Registry. The certificate was sealed in accordance with the law and cannot be accessed by the general public or the media. For 4 years, Declan has been the unmarried Vaughn heir in public, only wearing his wedding ring when he returns home. He once said he'd go public within a year. The following year, he said he'd wait until the handover of the family estate. The 3rd year, he said the foundation's leadership transition couldn't be disrupted. The 4th year, he wanted to publicly announce his engagement to Vivian for half a year. "What time tonight?" I asked. He paused, seemingly taken aback that I'd ask so calmly. "Ba, 30." After the opening remarks at the cocktail reception, "Will there be a formal photo session?" "Yes." "Will you put this ring on her finger?" "Nora, will you?" He raised his hand to touch me, but just as his fingertips were about to brush the back of my hand, I pushed the ring box toward him. "I will," he said, "but the ring won't change who we are." I looked at the faint mark still visible on his ring finger. "Then, let's buy it." He let out a sigh of relief, as if what I just agreed to wasn't a husband proposing to someone else, but replacing a dining table at home. As we left the Grey Heron Jewelry Salon, light snow was falling outside. Declan wrapped the scarf around my neck with a deftness that bordered on tenderness. "Don't linger in the foyer too long tonight," he said. "The press will be taking photos." I was doing a quick check on a loaned piece for the Cross Cultural Foundation and would be working backstage tonight. He wasn't worried that I'd be cold, nor that I'd be tired. He was worried that I'd appear in the official photos of him and Vivian. I untied the scarf and handed it back to him. "Keep it. You'll be on your feet for a long time tonight." The set at 8:42 p.m. Declan proposed to Vivian under the illuminated crest of the Granville Heritage Society. I stood behind a display case in the side hall, still wearing my thin cotton gloves. Vivian was wearing a dark green gown. She visibly paused when she saw the ring. It wasn't a feigned surprise. Declan got down on one knee. The audience fell silent at first, then broke into applause. Marianne stood in the front row, her back straight, her smile no broader than etiquette required. Declan didn't look at me as he slipped the ring onto Vivian's finger. He handled it well. He's always been good at keeping his 2 lives separate. Before the official photo session began, I left the side hall. The work log was complete, the display case temperature was stable, and there were no new cracks in the corners of the wooden frame. A conservator's work is always simpler than relationships. Where the damage is, what caused it, and whether it can be reversed. All of these have clear clues. People are different. At 1:00 a.m., The door to Uding Apartments creaked open. I was still sitting in the living room, my wedding ring on the table. Declan took off his coat, and the first thing he did was pull a small black ring box from his suit's inner pocket. He opened the box and slipped the worn silver ring back onto his left hand. Then, he walked toward me. "You're not asleep. You didn't stay for the family dinner after the engagement party either. I promised I'd come back." There was even a sense of calm in his voice, as if he'd kept his word. I caught a faint scent on his shirt collar, one that wasn't mine. Vivian's white flower brooch, which she'd been wearing tonight, must have brushed against it. "Did she like the ring?" I asked. "She does. You chose it well." "That's good." Declan sat down beside me and reached for the wedding ring on the table. "Don't do this, Nora. I know tonight has been hard for you. You know, that's why I came back." He cradled the ring in the palm of his hand, as if presenting evidence. "You see, the arrangements out there haven't changed things here. Vivian knows this is a family partnership, and she wouldn't interfere in my private life." For the first time, I realized that he wasn't just asking me to accept his public fiancé. He was also assuming that Vivian would accept an unnamed woman in my private life. It was just that his version of the story for each of us would obviously be different. "Did you tell her I'm your wife?" Declan was silent for a second. "There's no need to complicate things right now. Who does she think I am? A past romantic relationship." As soon as he finished speaking, he reached for my hand, trying to slip the ring back on. I curled my fingers. The band touched my knuckle, making a faint clicking sound. "It's not over between us," he said, looking at me. "You're my true home. In 6 months, I'll call off the engagement. By then, we'll still be us. And what about these next 6 months? Keep a low profile. Don't clash with Vivian, and don't create any misunderstandings in public. Am I supposed to keep living here? Keep picking out gifts for you, and wait for you to come back from her?" He furrowed his brow. "You're deliberately making that sound harsh. I'm just stating your plan in full." Declan's grip tightened slightly. "It's not that I don't love you. I know." That statement left him speechless. "I really do know." He remembers that I don't like my coffee too sweet, and that I turn on the heat upstairs in the studio early in the winter. He calls me every day when he's away on business, and when he's sick, he'll only eat the soup I make. We've also had 4 years that were real, stable, and tender. It's precisely because all of that is true that tonight isn't a misunderstanding. He truly loves me, and he truly chose to have another woman by his side. "Love isn't the only choice you've ever made," I said. I took the wedding ring back from his palm, but instead of putting it on, I placed it back in the box. Declan watched my movements, his Adam's apple bobbing. "What do you want me to do? Give up my stewardship of the ancestral estate, my seat on the foundation, and my annual trust allocation right now? Let the board of trustees think I'm ruining the entire family's arrangements for someone they've never approved of. I'm not asking you to do anything right now. Then what are you punishing me for? Refusing to share a bed with someone who's just gone public with their engagement isn't a punishment." His expression finally changed. "I'm your husband tonight. You've chosen to be her fiancé." I stood up and walked toward the guest room. Declan followed me 2 steps before stopping at the doorway. "Nora, don't turn 6 months into something irreversible." I gripped the doorknob without turning around. It wasn't when I took off the ring that things became irreversible. 3. The next morning, Declan went to the engagement breakfast arranged by the Ashford family. I asked my studio assistant to call a moving truck for me. There wasn't much at Uding Apartments that truly belonged to me. A few boxes of books, 2 sets of restoration tools, a few pieces of clothing, the knives I use regularly in the kitchen drawer, and the pot of rosemary on the windowsill that I've been tending for 3 years. We'd never bought any major pieces of furniture that required a joint decision. Declan always said we'd pick out a house that truly belonged to us once we went public. As a result, this place has always felt like a carefully maintained temporary residence. There are no wedding photos on the walls. My name isn't on the door plate, and the front desk only knows me as a long-term guest. As I was tidying up the bottom drawer in the bedroom, I spotted that thin wedding photo album. 4 years ago, we held the ceremony in a small garden next to the private registry office. No family, no press, and no one from the Vaughn family. Adrian was the only witness. In the photo, Declan is smiling at me, his eyes showing not a hint of hesitation. I left the photo album where it was, not because I'd forgotten. It's just that I no longer wanted to keep the evidence of this marriage's existence for him. That afternoon, I moved into the small apartment above the Bell Restoration Studio. It had originally been a storage space and a place for brief respite. 1 bedroom, a narrow window overlooking the lake. The place was much smaller than the Elm Court Apartments, but for the first time, my full name was written on the doorbell, Nora Bell. I updated my emergency contacts, revoked Declan's access to the studio, and placed a copy of our marriage certificate in a file folder. At 4:00 p.m., I was sitting in Elena Price's office. She finished reviewing the documents and looked up at me. "Are you sure you want to file?" "I'm sure. A no-fault unilateral divorce doesn't require his consent, but there is a statutory waiting period. Since you have separate property, no children, and no jointly held real estate, the process won't be particularly complicated. It won't matter if he tears up the documents, right? Elena glanced at me. What kind of marriage have you been in that makes you ask a question like that? One with a person who's in the habit of reinterpreting the facts. She pushed the application form toward me. Once it's filed, both the registry office and our respective lawyers will keep a copy on file. He can delay some disclosures, but he can't make the application disappear. I signed my name. The pen tip paused on the paper for a moment. Elena didn't rush me. One more thing, she said. Your marriage was registered confidentially. The public can't find it right now. If you make it public immediately, you can correct the narrative that he's single and engaged, but you'll also put yourself at the center of a scandal. People will ask why you didn't say anything for 4 years, why you waited until after his engagement to speak up, and why you're doing business with the Cross family again. So I'm not going public for now. Silence can be a strategy, but it shouldn't become evidence for others to interpret on your behalf. I nodded and handed her the application. By the time I walked out of the office building, the snow had stopped. I didn't feel any lighter. It was just the first time I didn't have to wait for Declan to decide when our marriage began or ended. Declan didn't realize I'd moved out until 9 that night. He'd called 17 times. When the phone rang for the 18th time, I was touching up a 19th century walnut table. I placed my phone face down on the workbench and didn't answer until the last coat of paint had dried. Where are you? The studio. I asked where you live. Upstairs from the studio. I could hear rapid breathing on the other end of the line. You didn't tell me how far along the engagement ring was in the custom-made process until you needed me to pick one out. Don't compare the two. Come home, now, and we'll talk. I'm already home. He was silent for a long time. At 7:00 a.m. the next morning, the door to the apartment upstairs was opened from the outside. Declan stood in the doorway, holding my usual breakfast, still carrying the chill of the early morning. I looked at the key in his hand. It was the spare key I'd given him 4 years ago. You lifted the access restriction downstairs, he said. I came in through the back door. Get out. Nora, I just came to bring you breakfast. You didn't get permission. I'm your husband. He said it again. That phrase used to signify intimacy. Now it meant nothing more than permission. I walked through the living room and snatched the keys from his hand. Declan didn't let go. Are you really going to throw away our 4 years for a token engagement? A token engagement won't get any applause, won't have any formal photos, and won't let another woman accept blessings while wearing the ring you chose. You're the one who picked that ring. Yes, you've turned humiliation into something I'm good at. His hand finally let go. I took out my phone and called a locksmith right in front of him. Declan stared at me, and for the first time, the anxiety in his eyes overshadowed his anger. Who told you to do this? Elena or Adrian? It's my door. Adrian called me yesterday. Then you should ask him why. What I'm asking is, had you already been in touch with him? I looked at the question and suddenly felt exhausted. The very next day after you got engaged to someone else, the first thing you did wasn't ask me why I left, but ask if another man had told me to leave. I went back to the desk, took the wedding photo album off the filing cabinet, and handed it to him. Take this with you, too. Declan didn't take it. Don't you want the photos? You need them. Why? To remind you that marriage doesn't just exist after you come home. The locksmith arrived half an hour later. Declan stood at the end of the hallway, watching as the old lock cylinder was removed. He didn't order me to go back again. He just held the photo album in his arms. Before leaving, he asked, "Is the divorce petition true?" I didn't ask him how he found out. Elena must have already served the notice to his lawyer. It's true. Are you trying to force me to go public early? I want to end the marriage. He seemed not to understand those 2 words. The waiting period isn't over yet, he said. You'll calm down. As the door closed in front of him, I saw the wedding ring still on his ring finger. He still believed that whoever wore it would never lose their wife. 5. It was Adrian himself who told me about Declan going to see him. He didn't explain over the phone. He just asked if I was free Thursday afternoon to come to the Cross Cultural Foundation's project room to look at a bookcase that needed restoration. Is this a job offer? I asked. Yes. Or are you trying to see if I've been influenced by Declan? There was a moment of silence on the other end of the line. If it's the latter, I'd ask you directly. That was just like Adrian. He never disguised his concern as a demand. On Thursday, I met him at Cross Manor. The winter lake was leaden gray, and the east wing of the manor had been converted into a public exhibition hall, with staff members shuttling back and forth pushing lighting equipment. There was none of the deliberately maintained sense of seclusion found at the Vaughn ancestral home here. The old walls had been preserved, yet the doors remained open at all times. Adrian was waiting for me outside the project. It had been 4 years since I'd last seen him, and he seemed even more serene than I remembered. His dark coat bore no family crest, and he didn't change his tone of voice when speaking to the porters. Did Declan ask you to persuade me to go back? I asked. Yes. What did you tell him? I said you're not the kind of person who needs to be persuaded to come back. He handed me the project documents. I also told him I wouldn't keep his secrets anymore. I looked up. Adrian, I'm not going to go public with your marriage. He quickly added, that's your decision. I'm just not going to pretend I don't know you anymore. Nor will I go along with his version of events when he asks me, as a friend, to maintain it. He made himself very clear, even setting the boundaries of his assistance in advance. The project room contained an 18th century beechwood bookcase, its crown cracked and its doors discolored by old restoration work. Helena Cross and the other 2 committee members were present. After reviewing my resume, Helena skipped the pleasantries. Adrian recommended you, but he'll recuse himself from the final vote, as he should, and a conflict of interest disclosure. Are you acquainted? Yes. How well do you know him? I glanced at Adrian. He had already retreated to the window and didn't answer for me. He's an old friend of my estranged spouse and was a witness at my wedding. I said, I'm in the process of getting a divorce. Other than that, we have no financial dealings or personal commitments. Helena's eyebrows twitched slightly. She didn't press the matter further. She simply pushed the sample evaluation form toward me. For the next 2 hours, I examined the wood's moisture content, the composition of the old adhesive, and signs of insect damage. I proposed a phased plan to remove the incorrect touch-ups and stabilize the cracks in the crown using reversible materials. Another committee member deliberately asked a few tough questions, which I answered, one by one. Finally, Helena closed her notebook. Submit the formal proposal within 3 days. Once the committee approves it, you'll be in charge of the first phase. Adrian didn't show any exaggerated signs of joy on my behalf. He simply said, congratulations. As he left the project room, it hasn't been officially approved yet. Then I'll wait for the final result to congratulate you again. We walked to the lakeside path, and he stopped a step away from me. Nora, Declan thinks you filed for divorce to force him to go public. I know. He also thinks I'm the one pushing you. Did you? No. That's enough. Adrian looked at me as if he had more to say, but in the end, he just nodded. I suddenly remembered the day of the wedding, when he signed the witness documents for me and then quickly left the garden. Declan said he was rushing to the airport. I didn't ask him why, back then. Now isn't the time either. 3 days later, the committee approved my proposal. The approval email noted, Adrian Cross did not participate in the vote. I read that line twice. This wasn't aloofness. It was him giving my career a foundation on which to stand on its own. 6. The preview dinner at Cross Manor was my first appearance on the official list of the Granville Winter Social Season as a project conservator. When Adrian introduced me at the entrance, he didn't leave anything out. Nora Bell, director of Bell Restoration Studios and lead restorer on the bookcase project in the estate's East Wing. He didn't mention that I was his friend, nor did he use any man's name to lend me prestige. As the lights from the photo area swept over me, I instinctively wanted to step back. Over the past 4 years, I'd grown accustomed to stepping aside from Declan's side for formal photos. Adrian noticed, but instead of pulling me back, he simply asked, is this a good spot? I glanced at the markings on the floor and took a half step forward. This is fine. Just as the flash went off, Declan and Vivian were entering from the other side. Vivian was wearing the ring I'd picked out for her. She had her arm linked through Declan's, her posture impeccable. When Declan saw me standing next to Adrian, his footsteps visibly paused for a moment. He quickly resumed his smile and walked over with Vivian. Adrian, Declan. The 2 friends, once so close, exchanged only their first names. Vivian extended her hand to me first. Miss Bell, I hear you're in charge of the bookcases in the East Wing. Yes. Declan says you're very capable. He probably wasn't referring to his wife, but to a former romantic partner. Thank you. I took her hand. The ring's shank had been lowered as I'd suggested, so it wouldn't dig into the side of my finger. Declan stared at our hands and suddenly said, Miss No. Bell has a keen eye for both jewelry and woodwork. He almost let slip the nickname we used only in private. Vivian turned to look at him. Adrian acted as if he hadn't heard and simply asked me, the project presentation starts in 10 minutes. Should we go check the lighting first? Yes. Declan stepped forward. I need to say a few words to her. Adrian didn't speak up to refuse on my behalf. He looked at me. I said, after the presentation. Now, Declan said in a low voice, it won't take more than 2 minutes. I'm working. People around us had already noticed us. Declan couldn't publicly explain why he had the right to give me orders, so he had to drop the husband tone. I'm just worried you don't fully understand the arrangements for this project. Her arrangements have been approved by the committee, Helena said, stepping over from the side. If Mr. Vaughn has any questions about the project, he can ask me. Declan's expression darkened slightly. I didn't leave with him. During the presentation, I stood next to the before and after comparison photos, explaining how the incorrect coating had stripped the wood of its original texture. Under the lights, the bookcase had been stripped of the dark paint that had been applied later, revealing a softer grain. I said, restoration isn't about turning an object back into an imagined, brand new state. It's about determining which marks belong to it and which are simply later damaged. In the crowd, Declan kept looking at me. Afterward, he stopped me in the side corridor. Why didn't you tell me you were going to walk in with Adrian? I didn't walk in with him. I'm a project staff member. He's a board member of the foundation. Everyone will assume you two are involved. Then you can set the record straight. He fell silent. I looked at him. Tell them I'm your wife. Declan's jaw tensed. Now is not the time to discuss this. You always say that. I'm protecting you. Once this comes out, the media will hound you about why you kept your marriage a secret, and clients will suspect you have a conflict of interest with the Vaughn family. So your way of protecting me is to get engaged to another woman. He reached out and gripped my wrist. I didn't struggle. I just stared at his hand. Declan let go as if he'd been burned. Go back to Elm Court. He said, we'll talk this through tonight. I'm not going back. Nora, don't call me that in that tone here. As I turned to leave, Vivian was standing at the other end of the side porch. She didn't come closer. She just looked down and adjusted her ring. 7. 2 days later, Vivian asked me to meet her at the Lakeside Cafe. She had reserved the innermost private room, with only 2 glasses of water on the table. I'll be straightforward, she said. Declan told me you two were in a long-term relationship. You never went public because your families didn't approve. You've since broken up, but you just haven't been able to accept it yet. I didn't touch my glass of water. Is that what he said? Yes. He also said you've been spending a lot of time with Adrian lately. So who do you want me to stay away from? Your fiancé, or Adrian? Her expression stiffened slightly. I want you to stop accepting personal messages from Declan. Now that the relationship is over, there should be boundaries. There was nothing wrong with that statement itself. What was wrong was that she'd been given a completely different set of facts. I agree, I said. Vivian clearly hadn't expected that. Then why did you let him come to the studio? I didn't let him come. He's been contacting you almost every day lately. You should ask him about that. Her finger twirled her ring, and the obsidian cast a faint, dark gleam by the window. Miss Bell, I'm not here to argue. I just need to be sure that 6 months from now, I'm entering into a legitimate marriage, not sharing a husband with an ex who's always around. I looked at her for a long time. What she wanted was exactly what I'd wanted 4 years ago. Open, legitimate, with no need to compete with any secret woman. I was on the verge of telling her the whole truth, but once the words were out, our marriage would go from being a deception between the 3 of us to a scandal throughout Granville. She would become the laughingstock of the town, deceived right after the engagement was announced, and my clients would see the secret wife of the Vaughn heir before they even saw my professional name. I was still weighing the timing. This hesitation was hurting her, too. You need to confirm with Declan, I said, exactly what kind of relationship he's asking you to accept. Vivian's gaze turned cold. You could be more specific. I've said all I can say. Or do you prefer to keep people guessing? No. Then what is it? I don't want to explain for him anymore. She stood up and picked up her purse. I hope you understand that your silence doesn't make you look any more innocent. After the door closed, I remained seated. She was partly right. Silence isn't harmless. It's just that, at that moment, I wasn't ready to bear the full cost of the truth. On our wedding anniversary, Declan sent me a message. Come back to Uding to get your things. The last tool is still in the study. It was a narrow-bladed scraper my father had left behind. There was no way I could leave it behind. At 7:00 p.m., I opened the door to our apartment in Uding and was immediately struck by the scent of roasted rosemary and old wood wax. The dining table was covered with the white tablecloth we'd used on our wedding night. Candles lined the mantel. Our wedding album lay open on the table, and Declan was wearing my once favorite dark gray shirt. The tools in the study. I said, let's eat first. I'm not here to celebrate. Today is our anniversary. Does your fiancé know? The tenderness on his face froze for a moment. Don't let her in here. You're the one who brought her in. Not physically, but in spirit. Declan stepped in front of me. I'm already handling it. We can have a second wedding. I thought I'd misheard him. What? Not the registration. We're already legally married. I mean, the ceremony. Invite a few people who are truly close to us. And Adrian can come back to be a witness if he's willing. You can wear whatever dress you want, and we'll exchange vows again. In public? He paused. Just privately, for now. I couldn't help but smile. Declan's expression stung at that smile. What exactly do you want me to do to make it up to you? It's not about making it up. I said, you just want to give the secret a prettier ceremony. At least it shows I care. You've always cared. You just never let that care get in the way of keeping other things. He gripped the back of the chair, his knuckles turning white. Haven't I done enough for this family? In 4 years, has there been a single day I didn't come home? Who was there to take care of you when you were sick? When the studio was on the verge of going under? Who was it? I didn't use your money, but I was there for you. Being there doesn't give you a license to use someone indefinitely. I walked into the study and picked up the putty knife. A photograph fell out of the album. In the photo, Declan was lifting my veil, and Adrian stood in the distance, his face half hidden by the shadows of the trees. Declan bent down to pick it up, his voice suddenly softening. Don't you miss that day at all? Of course, I do. That day, he was willing to sign the registration papers, willing to hold my hand tightly, willing to say that whether it was public or not, marriage wouldn't change his choice. I do, I said. A glimmer of hope lit up in his eyes. But I won't attend another secret wedding. The hope faded quickly. Is it because of Adrian? He asked. No, he just got back. And you moved out, got a divorce, and took on the Cross Project. How am I supposed to believe there's nothing going on? You can trust time. In 4 years, we haven't met privately even once. He's waiting for you. That's his problem. Declan suddenly slammed the photo down on the table. You're my wife. You always remember that when you need to keep me in line. I walked toward the door, holding the putty knife. He didn't follow me, but called out from behind me. I won't sign the divorce papers. You don't need to sign anything. The waiting period isn't over yet. It will be. The hallway outside the door was cold and devoid of any scent of food. As I closed the door, I heard the sound of a glass falling inside. The next day, Adrian met with Declan in the reading room of a private club. I don't know exactly what they said. A few days later, Adrian simply told me that he had ended his friendship with Declan. He accused me of taking advantage of you. He said, "What did you say?" I reminded him that I was a witness at your wedding. I left Granville after the ceremony and haven't crossed any borders for 4 years. Did he believe you? He didn't need to believe me. The facts don't change just because he wants them to. You've known each other for over 20 years. Adrian lowered his eyes, his fingertips gently tracing the rim of his coffee cup. Friendship isn't a get-out-of-jail-free card that lets one person keep hurting others. After that, the rumors about me began to take shape. Some said I'd first attached myself to the Vaughn family, then turned to the more prestigious Cross family after becoming engaged to Declan. Some claimed that Adrian had severed ties with an old friend for my sake, and that the Cross Manor project was merely a gift to his lover. The studio was the first to be affected. A longtime client called to postpone delivery of a set of custom picture frames. It's not that I don't trust your craftsmanship, Miss Bell, she said politely. It's just that the current reports have raised some concerns with the insurance company. The reports didn't say I was getting married. They only mentioned that I had appeared in the rift between two heirs. I released a brief statement outlining the project review process, the committee members, and the fact that Adrian recused himself from the vote. It didn't mention personal relationships at all. After reading it, Elena asked, "How much longer can you stay silent? Until I can decide for myself what to say." Declan didn't start these rumors, but he didn't set the record straight either, because he thought you were still protecting your marriage. I signed the statement as Nora Bell. That was yet another miscalculation on his part. When Marianne Vaughn asked to meet with me, she did so via a formal letter. The meeting took place in the greenhouse at the Vaughn family estate. She sat before a row of winter roses. There was no tea on the table, nor any unnecessary pleasantries. Miss Bell, Mrs. Vaughn. Her gaze lingered on my left hand for a moment. I know you and Declan were close in the past. In the past? He didn't handle the breakup well. I won't make excuses for him on that point. She placed a guest list for the Winter Council on the table. My name was listed under Project Director, Cross Cultural Foundation. I'd prefer it if you didn't attend the closing banquet. Why? Your appearance at the same event as Declan and Adrian will only fuel unnecessary speculation. In 6 months, once the trust restructuring is complete, we can offer you a respectable arrangement, including long-term project support for your studio. In what capacity would you support me? Marianne looked at me. As a professional who maintains good relations with the Vaughn family, not as Declan's wife. Her expression finally shifted. It was subtle, but enough. She didn't know. Declan had kept the marriage hidden, not only from the public but also from the chief trustee. Miss Bell, she said, slowing her speech. Marriage is not a word to be used to test the family's attitude. I wasn't testing anything. Then you should be all the more cautious. If Declan publicly chooses me, what would he lose? Marianne did not answer immediately. That is a family matter. He told me he would lose everything. He would lose control of the family estate, his seat on the foundation's board, and his share of that year's trust distribution. His personal assets would remain his, and his professional income would not be affected. Her voice was as calm as if she were reading from a set of terms. He'll still be wealthy and able to live comfortably. He'll just no longer represent the Vaughn family. If he truly wishes to give up his representative status, no one can stop him. A thin layer of mist had formed on the greenhouse glass. I recalled how, 4 years ago, Declan had said that going public with his marriage would lead to his complete ostracization by the family. I remembered how, the following year, he'd said he'd wait for one more vote by the trustees. The 3rd year, he said it wasn't about money. It was about responsibility. It really wasn't about money after all. It was about status. It was about standing at the center of the Winter Council, introduced as the heir to the Vaughn family. And I'd waited 4 years, simply because he was unwilling to step down from that position. I won't be absent, I said. Marianne's fingers tapped lightly on the tabletop. Do you know what refusing means? It means I'll go and do my own work. It also means you might lose some clients. That's the price I pay. I'll bear it myself. What exactly do you want from Declan? I stood up. Nothing right now. As I walked toward the door, she called out to me, "If what you just said wasn't an exaggeration, I suggest you understand one thing. Declan isn't just deceiving you." "I understand." "No," she said, "you don't fully understand yet." It wasn't until later that I learned that. After that day, Marianne began reviewing Declan's trust statements and partner disclosure documents from the past nearly 4 years. But at that moment, I was simply walking down the long stone steps of the Vaughn ancestral home. Anger is more useful than sadness. Sadness makes me wait. Anger made me see clearly that he wasn't without options. He just kept putting his own losses before my life. 10. That week, restoration work at Cross Manor entered its second phase. I was remixing the filling material in the restoration room when Helena stood in the doorway watching for a moment. "Adrian was in this room 4 years ago, too," she said suddenly. I looked up. He wasn't a restorer. So he read the same report 6 times and still didn't know the difference between wood wax and resin. There was no mockery in Helena's tone, only the calm of someone who had seen through the past. He left Granville the very next day. "Do you know why?" He said he was going to take over an overseas foundation project. The project was real. The speed of his departure was real, too. She didn't say anything more. In the evening, I found Adrian on the lakeside promenade. He was standing by the stone railing, watching the staff test the exterior lighting. Hearing my footsteps, he turned around. "What did Helena tell you? Why did you leave after my wedding?" Adrian didn't ask a counter question, nor did he pretend not to understand. A breeze picked up over the lake. He took half a step back, leaving the spot closest to the railing for me. "Because I was planning to confess my feelings to you." I clenched my hand inside my coat pocket. "When?" "The week before you and Declan got married." "Why didn't you?" "You told me you decided to marry him, so you served as a witness. I needed someone who knew the truth, but wouldn't tell the Vaughns. And then you left. Staying would have made me think it was okay to wait for your marriage to fall apart." He said it calmly, but I suddenly remembered the shadow of a tree falling across his face in the wedding photo. 4 years ago, all I saw was Declan. "Are you back now because you know we're getting a divorce?" "I'm back because of the Cross Foundation project." After I found out Declan was engaged, I decided I wouldn't keep quiet for him anymore. Both things are true. "Do you still have feelings for me?" Adrian looked at me without looking away. "Yes." The wind blew between us. He didn't move closer. "But until your divorce is final, I won't pursue you, nor will I ask you to respond to the past. What if I don't choose you in the end? That doesn't change the fact that you deserve to be treated fairly." For the first time, I felt in danger around him. Not because he would force me, but because he wouldn't. Declan always attached deadlines, conditions, and trade-offs to love. Adrian gave me back the choice, which, ironically, left me unable to prove my sobriety through resistance. "We need to keep our distance," I said. He nodded. "Okay." He didn't ask how long, nor did he ask me to hold out hope. In that moment, a soft ache tugged at a place deep inside me. I didn't allow myself to call it a flutter of the heart. 11. Declan's outburst happened on the day of the preview for the Cross Manor exhibition. He hadn't been invited, yet he showed up at the East Wing with Vivian. I was adjusting a protective cloth when Adrian picked up my apron from the corner of the table and handed it to me. The straps were tangled, so he untangled them for me, then paused a step away. "Need some help?" "No, I tied it myself." It was this very moment that Declan witnessed. "What are you two doing?" His voice was so loud that the staff around us all stopped what they were doing. Vivian stood behind him, looking much calmer than he did. Adrian didn't answer. I took off my gloves. "This is a work area. You don't have an appointment. I came to see you. Then wait outside. I can't watch you be with him while the marriage isn't over yet." He stopped short. A photographer looked up. Vivian looked at me, then at Declan. "What marriage?" she asked. Declan's expression changed. "She's still in the process of ending a previous relationship." "You just said the marriage isn't over yet." "Vivian, I'll explain later." "Whose marriage?" I looked at her. That ring was still on her finger. "You should ask your fiancé." I said, "Who I'm married to." Declan walked toward me and whispered, "Nora, that's enough. You barged into my workplace, publicly bound me by marriage. Yet, you don't dare say who my husband is. Whether it's enough or not isn't up to you." He reached out to pull me. I stepped back to avoid him and said to the venue manager, "Please ask Mr. Vaughn to leave." Declan looked at me in disbelief. In the past, whenever he lowered his voice, I would follow him to a private place to work things out. I was afraid of making a scene, afraid others would see the cracks. This time, I didn't. As the security guards approached, Adrian remained standing where he was. He didn't give any orders on my behalf. Declan was escorted out of the East Wing, and Vivian didn't take his arm. She glanced at me before she left. It wasn't hostility. It was the realization that the answer she'd been given might have been false from the very beginning. That evening, Declan acknowledged the marriage at the Vaughn ancestral home. Not to everyone, only to Vivian. She told me about this later. She demanded proof that his so-called previous relationship had ended, but Declan couldn't provide it. In the end, he admitted that we were still legally married. He said the divorce petition was just a decision I'd made in the heat of the moment, and that once the engagement arrangements were over in 6 months, everything would be resolved. Vivian asked him, "What do you mean by resolved? Leaving her, or leaving me?" Declan didn't give an answer. She took the ring off once, then put it back on. She needed time, not because she wanted to steal someone else's husband, but because the entire town of Granville had just witnessed her engagement. Admitting the truth right away would be like admitting that she had accepted a married man's promise in front of everyone. She gave Declan an ultimatum. Before the winter council meeting, stop contacting me in private and make a choice. Declan agreed. The very next evening, he came to the studio. The studio was already closed for the day, with only a single work lamp left on downstairs. Declan stood outside the door. He didn't use his key this time. This was the first time he'd rung the doorbell and waited for me to open the door. I let him into the reception area but didn't take him upstairs. He placed the wedding photo album on the table. "I'm going to call off the engagement," he said. I didn't answer. In my closing remarks at the Winter Council, "I'll make our marriage public. I'll tell everyone you're my wife, and I'll renounce my status as family representative." These were the words I'd been waiting 4 years to hear. When he finally said them, I wasn't as thrilled as I'd imagined. I just felt it was too late. The delay felt like a kind of corruption. It wasn't that there was less time. It was that something else had been mixed in. "Does Vivian know about your decision?" I asked. "I'll handle it. You're making decisions for her again. Nora, I'm choosing you now." "Why now?" "Because I almost lost you. What if Adrian hadn't come back?" Declan paused. "This has nothing to do with him." "Then why can't you answer?" "I've already agreed to forfeit my seat. What more do you want me to prove?" "I want to know. Is it because you finally saw what I went through? Or because another man might have the wife you refuse to acknowledge publicly?" The urgency on his face gradually turned to anger. "Do you have to make my choice sound so despicable? I'm just setting the timeline straight." Declan opened the photo album and pointed to the picture of us exchanging vows. "You said that day that no matter what happened, you'd face it with me. I've faced it for 4 years. Give me one more chance." Chances don't just appear automatically after we go public. Withdraw the divorce petition. Finally, we got to the trade-off. He was willing to go public, on the condition that I return to my former role. I closed the photo album. "I won't. I've already agreed to everything you ever wanted. Just because I wanted it in the past doesn't mean I still want it now." He stared at me, as if realizing for the first time that wishes can expire. "You'll regret this." "Maybe," I said, "but it'll be my regret." Before Declan left, his gaze swept over the stairs. "Has Adrian been here?" "That's no longer a question you can ask. You're still my wife, until the legal proceedings are over." "Yes. That just means I can't start another marriage. It doesn't mean you have a right to my door, my time, or my explanations." After he left, I called Elena. She confirmed that the mutual financial disclosure had been completed. The waiting period was nearly over, and all that remained was the registration confirmation. "His public announcement of marriage won't interrupt the proceedings," she said, "unless you voluntarily withdraw." "I won't." "Then you'd better be prepared. Once he announces the marriage in a formal setting, everyone will come asking you about it." "I know. But I haven't decided yet whether to let Adrian clarify the boundaries of those 4 years on my behalf. He'd offered to do so. I can publicly state that I was a witness, that I left town immediately after the wedding, and that I've had no private contact with you for 4 years. He said, "At least that will protect your professional reputation for now." We stood in the carriage house at Cross Manor, with the vehicles used for the rehearsal parked outside. "And then?" I asked. "Then it's up to you to decide when to go public about the marriage. They'll say the heir to the Cross estate is vouching for his woman." Adrian furrowed his brow slightly. "That's not what I meant." "I know, but the result might be the same. Letting rumors continue to hurt you isn't what I call independence. Having another man prove my innocence isn't the freedom I want either." He fell silent. This was the first real disagreement we'd had since we'd been reunited. "I just want to lessen the price you have to pay," he said. "Declan always says he's protecting me, too." The words were out before I could stop them. Adrian's expression was neutral, yet it felt as though I'd pushed him a step further away. I'm not like him, which is why I need to be even more certain that I'm not just moving from one person's secret to another's protection. He nodded. "I understand. At the Winter Council, I'll enter alone." "All right. You don't have to speak on my behalf." "All right." He agreed so quickly that it actually made my chest tighten. Before leaving, he asked, "Do you need a witness?" I looked at the snow glistening outside the carriage house. "I needed one 4 years ago." I said, "This time, I'll be my own witness." 13. The day before the Winter Council, Vivian stopped me in the side corridor of the council chamber. She wasn't wearing gloves, and her ring stood out clearly against her pale knuckles. "Declan plans to announce your marriage in his closing remarks," she said. "I know he wants to make it public, but I don't know exactly when. He's also going to show wedding photos. He'll frame it as a love story derailed by family pressure. He'll announce the cancellation of the engagement, then ask you to come home." I looked at her. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because he didn't tell me until this morning." Vivian gave a small, emotionless smile. I'm probably the last person to find out the details of my own engagement. Flower stands were being set up in the side aisle, and staff members passed by behind us. We both kept our voices low. "Why didn't you tell me clearly sooner?" she asked. "I was worried that going public would hurt the studio, and I was also worried you'd become part of a scandal. So you decided for me that I could keep wearing the ring and accepting congratulations." I didn't try to defend myself. "Yes, my silence made you endure several more weeks of deception. I'm sorry." The anger in her eyes hadn't faded, but the main responsibility still lies with Declan. I continued. He knew the whole truth, yet he gave us different versions of the story. "I know. What you do tomorrow is up to you. You don't need to take off your ring right here to prove your support for me, nor do you need to keep wearing it to protect yourself." Vivian twirled her ring. "Don't you want to join forces with me? We're not friends." "That's honest of you, but we don't have to keep taking out our anger on each other because of him." She looked at me for a long time. "Declan said you wouldn't let things get out of hand in public. You care too much about appearances. He used to be right. And now? Now I only care about who tells the truth." Vivian didn't tell me what she was going to do. Before she left, she said, "Don't be late tomorrow night. He scheduled your speech after the project presentation. He probably thinks you won't take the stage to refute him." "Thanks." She took a few steps, then stopped. "You picked out the ring, didn't you?" I nodded. "It suits me perfectly," she said. "Too bad the person who gave it to me doesn't." 14. On the night of the Winter Council, I walked alone through the official photo area. Neither Declan nor Adrian was there. As the flashes went off, someone quietly confirmed my name. Others, upon seeing me, withdrew the hands they'd already extended. Granville's aloofness rarely took the form of insults. It usually manifested as one fewer seat, one fewer introduction, or a conversation that happened to end just as you approached. I checked in as the project manager for Cross Manor. A staff member handed me a name tag that read, Nora Bell. In the center of the ballroom, Declan and Vivian stood beside the Vaughn family table. Vivian was still wearing her ring. When Declan saw me enter alone, his shoulders visibly relaxed. He probably assumed Adrian and I had broken up. Adrian was on the other side, talking to a board member of the foundation. When he saw me, he merely gave a distant nod. He didn't come over to greet me. That was the distance we'd agreed upon. Yet, at that moment, I felt lonely. It wasn't that I had no one to rely on. It was that I'd chosen to give up the easiest source of support. Helena asked me to go over the order of the project presentations. "You can just talk about the restoration and avoid answering personal questions," she said. "I know. No matter what happens tonight, the committee has confirmed the validity of your project and the quality of your work." This was the professional assurance she could offer, not family protection. I finished my 12-minute project presentation. When I got to the crown molding on the bookshelf, people in the audience finally started looking closely at the diagrams, instead of checking to see if there was a ring on my left hand. As the presentation ended, the applause was polite and steady. I returned to my seat, and my phone vibrated. Elena sent a message. The registration agency had accepted the final documents and was waiting for confirmation that the date remained unchanged. I placed my phone face down on the table. Then, Declan stepped onto the main stage. 15. He was supposed to announce the next year's legacy project on behalf of the Vaughn family, but he didn't open the prepared speech. "Before we begin, I need to correct a fact that has persisted for 4 years. The banquet hall fell silent. The big screen lit up, displaying a wedding photo I'd left behind at the Elm Court Apartments. In the photo, I was wearing a simple white dress, and Declan was slipping the wedding ring onto my finger. Adrian's signature appeared below the photocopy of the marriage certificate, but the private identification number was obscured. Declan thought this was decent enough. It both proved the marriage and presented it as romantic. The woman in this photo is my lawful wife, Nora Vaughn. At that moment, all eyes turned to me. I did not stand up. Declan continued. 4 years ago, due to restrictions on public spousal status imposed by the Vaughn Family Trust, we chose to register our marriage privately. I promised to have her stand by my side as soon as possible. But time and again, my family responsibilities caused me to postpone that promise. He put it well. Every sentence sounded like an admission of fault, and every sentence framed his choices as passive. My engagement to Vivian Ashford is hereby terminated immediately. I take full responsibility for the hurt this has caused. Vivian stood in the audience, her expression unreadable. Declan looked at me. I will also relinquish my position as representative of the Vaughn family and my stewardship of the family estate. Nora, I know I'm late, but I'm willing to make our marriage public starting today. Please come home. There was no applause from the audience. This wasn't a marriage proposal, nor was it a charitable pledge. No one was sure how to respond. Declan had staked everything on the words I'd once longed to hear most. He believed that if he finally called me his wife, I would reframe the scandal as a love story for him. The host looked at me hesitantly. I stood up. As I walked toward the stage, I passed Adrian's seat. He didn't reach out, nor did he stand to follow me. He simply stepped aside. When Declan saw me take the stage, a hint of relief even flashed in his eyes. He thought I was there to accept. I took the microphone. There are 3 things that need to be set straight. My own voice echoed around the chamber, sounding steadier than I'd expected. First, my name is Nora Bell, not Nora Vaughn. I've never changed my last name since getting married, and I use this name for my studio, professional credentials, and all project documents. Declan's expression shifted slightly. Second, the marriage is real. We completed a legal, confidential registration 4 years ago. Confidentiality does not mean it doesn't exist, nor does it mean my husband can publicly present himself as single and become engaged to someone else. A murmur of hushed conversation rose from the audience. Marianne sat in the front row of the Vaughn section, her expression icy. This was clearly the first time she had confirmed the marriage as well. Third, I looked at Declan. The day after he publicly announced his engagement to Vivian, I filed for a unilateral divorce. The waiting period and asset verification have both been completed. The proceedings have entered the final confirmation stage. Declan's hand clenched the edge of the podium. Nora, please, let me finish. Those were the words he used to say to me most often. I finally returned them to him, word for word, though I didn't raise my voice. Declan said he was willing to give up his status as family representative. That choice is his, but it comes too late. For 4 years, no law or family rule has prevented him from acknowledging the marriage. The cost has always been there, but so has the choice. Marianne slowly looked up at her grandson. He didn't gain that choice today. He's just willing to pay the price today. Declan took a step closer. I'm willing to pay now. Nora, I've gone public. Yes, just as I was about to leave, you finally gave me what I'd always wanted. Then why isn't that enough? The whole room heard his question. I looked at the wedding ring on his ring finger. Because going public isn't a reward, and a wife isn't a possession you need to reclaim only after you've lost control. The color drained from his face, little by little. You said the ring doesn't change who we are. You said going public with our engagement was only for 6 months. You think that as long as I return to Elm Court every night and put the wedding ring back on, I should still be your wife. I paused. But marriage isn't a room that only exists behind closed doors. The ballroom was so quiet you could hear the equipment humming. I acknowledge that this marriage exists, and I acknowledge that I once loved you deeply. Precisely because it exists. Your commitment to Vivian isn't just a formality. Precisely because I once loved you. Divorce isn't a threat. I placed the microphone back on its stand. Declan, I won't be going home, because that's no longer my home. Vivian walked onto the stage at that moment. She didn't look at me. Instead, she faced the guests and removed her ring. I need to clarify that when I accepted this engagement, I did not know Declan Vaughn was married. He told me that Nora Bell was a private relationship that had already ended. She placed the ring on the podium. I will not continue an engagement built on a concealment of information. Declan turned to her. Vivian, I've already announced the end. It wasn't you who ended it, she said. I'm the one walking away. The ring I had chosen lay between the 3 of us. Marianne then stood up, but did not take the stage. She simply said to Declan, at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, the Board of Trustees will review your eligibility to represent the organization. Not because of who you married, but because you submitted a false declaration of partnership to the board. The identity he cared about most crumbled from 3 directions that very night. It wasn't Adrian who took it away. It wasn't my revenge. It was simply that his 2 sets of lies finally stood face to face in the same room. My legs felt a little wobbly as I stepped off the stage. Adrian still hadn't stepped in front of me to block the cameras. He stood by the side door and asked, do you want to leave alone? Or do you need someone to walk with you? Everyone was watching. I didn't answer right away. Then I said, walk me to the door. Okay. He walked beside me, never touching me. The lights in the official photo area were still on. This time, I didn't pull away. 16, for 3 days after the Winter Council, I didn't open any social media. The studio phone kept ringing non-stop. There were reporters, strangers, and clients who had previously only been willing to refer to me as the restorer who works with Mr. San. Vaughn. I had my assistant forward all personal inquiries to Elena and respond only to project and insurance matters. The first to resume our collaboration was the client who had put the delivery of the picture frame on hold. She wrote in her email that the insurance company had reconfirmed the project's independence and hoped to proceed with delivery as originally planned. No apology, no praise. That actually put my mind at ease. Revealing the truth didn't make everyone suddenly like me. It just made it impossible for them to continue portraying me as someone who relies on 2 men to secure projects. My work still has to be proven through documentation, technical skill, and on-time delivery. When Helena came to the studio to check on progress, she brought the official contract renewal documents from the cross committee. This is the result of the 3-way vote, she said. Adrian still recused himself. Thanks. Don't thank him. He really didn't cast a vote at all. I laughed. Helena smiled briefly and left the documents on the desk. You did great that night. I almost tripped as I was stepping off the stage. That was the shoe's fault, not your speech. After she left, I stood in front of the workbench for a long time. That was the first time since the announcement that I allowed myself to feel relieved. Vivian didn't contact me. She issued a brief statement through the committee confirming the engagement was off and that she was withdrawing from the remainder of this season's joint events. She didn't mention my name, nor did she portray herself as a victim. We didn't become friends. Once, when we ran into each other at a Granville Heritage Society project meeting, she nodded at me across the long table. I nodded back. That was enough. Marion, however, revoked Declan's status as the family representative. The Vaughn family did not go bankrupt, nor did Declan lose his personal property. He was simply no longer allowed to oversee the ancestral home project or represent the foundation at the closing ceremony. The board of trustees required him to undergo a new integrity review. These consequences suited him better than ending up on the streets. He still had a life, just no longer the kind of dignity that allowed him to occupy every position at once. He came to the studio for the last time the week before the divorce was finalized. This time, he messaged me in advance and didn't show up until 4:00 p.m. after I'd replied to confirm I was available. He wasn't wearing his wedding ring. I noticed the indentation left by the ring had faded considerably. Declan stood in the reception area. He made no move toward the stairs and hadn't brought breakfast, flowers, or a photo album. I've signed the final property settlement, he said. Elena told me. I'll end the lease on Uding in the spring. I nodded. He looked around the studio. By the window sat the pot of rosemary he'd brought from the apartment. It had sprouted new leaves. I used to think that place was our home. It's only ours if I get to decide what it is. I know. For once, when Declan said those 3 words, he didn't follow them with a but. He sat down in the chair, his hands clasped together. I've always felt like I was shouldering the responsibility. Grandma, the trust, the foundation. Everyone told me that an open marriage would cost me my standing. I left you at home, thinking I'd at least preserve the life I truly wanted. You didn't leave me at home. You just assumed I'd stay. Yes, he lowered his head. I wanted to keep everything at once. The Vaughn family's standing, the Vivian family's support, and you. I made all 3 of you pay the price for me. This was the first time he'd stated the truth without embellishment. It didn't soften my heart. Understanding why someone hurt you doesn't undo the hurt. If I hadn't made our marriage public that day, he asked, would you have loved me a little longer? I still loved you when I filed for divorce. He looked up. Then why did you leave? Because love isn't the only reason to stay. Declan's lips twitched as if he wanted to smile, but he didn't. Is Adrian waiting for you? I looked at him. He quickly added, you don't have to answer. It was a belated sense of boundaries. He didn't ask me for an answer. I said. Declan nodded. He's always known better than I have how to respect you. This isn't a competition between you two. I know. He stood up, walked to the door, then turned back. Nora, I'm sorry. I accept that you're accountable for the facts. He waited a moment. I didn't say I forgave him, nor did I say we could still be friends. Declan finally left. After the door closed, I didn't go to the window to watch him leave. I returned to my workbench and continued working on the brass handle I'd removed from the bookcase. I couldn't remove all the old patina. Doing so would destroy the authentic surface left by time. Restoration is never about returning something to its undamaged state. It's about allowing it to continue to exist stably after acknowledging the damage. 2 weeks later, Elena placed the divorce decree in front of me. It's done. I signed Nora Bell on the acknowledgement page. I hadn't changed my name, nor did I need to change it back. That evening, I ate a very ordinary dinner alone, turned off all the lights in the studio, and went upstairs to sleep for 9 hours. When I woke up, Granville had already entered early spring. 17 before the Cross Cultural Foundation's spring gala. Adrian came to the studio to pick up a project report. From the winter conference until that day, we'd talked only about work. He didn't test the waters, nor did he use the fact that he'd walked me to the door that night as an excuse to seek a closer relationship. Occasionally, after a meeting, he'd ask if I needed a ride. I'd say no, and he wouldn't press the issue. This restraint sometimes made me wonder if he'd already reined in his feelings. It also confirmed that I wanted to see him not because I needed a replacement for Declan. After reading the report, Adrian closed the folder. There's one more personal question, he said. Go ahead. Is your divorce officially final? It was finalized last week. He nodded, still not moving closer right away. So can I pursue you now? I didn't expect him to ask so directly. How do you plan to pursue me? I'll start by asking you out. Dinner, on Friday. You pick the place. Not a foundation event, and not a project discussion. What if I say no? I'll be disappointed, but I'll accept it. What if it takes me a long time? I won't set a deadline for you. I looked down at my hands. There was no ring mark on my ring finger. I'd stored that wedding ring in a bank safe deposit box, not as a memento, nor out of hope, but simply because I hadn't yet decided what to do with an object that once held meaning. Friday works, I said. Adrian's gaze finally softened a little. Okay, but what about the spring gala? You're the project lead. You have your own invitation. I know. If you'd like, we can walk in together as a couple. If you'd rather not, we'll walk in separately and have dinner as usual on Friday. He left the choice between public and private up to me, never treating one as proof of the other. I looked at him and suddenly realized why I was willing to take that step forward. It wasn't because the Cross family was older than the Vaughn family, nor because he could let me stand closer to the front in formal photos. It was because every time he moved closer, he left me room to refuse. "Let's walk in together," I said. "Okay, what should you call me when you introduce me?" Adrian thought about it, seriously. "That's up to you. Nora Bell, director of Bell Restoration Studio." And I looked at him. "Your date?" He smiled. It wasn't the smile Declan had in the gray heron jewelry room, the smile of someone who'd finally gotten his way, nor was it the smile of a victor. It was simply the smile of someone who'd received explicit consent and was allowing himself to be happy. On the night of the spring gala, Adrian stopped in front of the photo booth. "Are you ready?" "I'm ready." He held out his hand. Without touching me directly, I placed my hand in his palm. When the lights came on, the MC asked him how he should introduce me. Adrian looked at me first. I said, "Nora Bell." He continued, "Head of the Bell Restoration Studio, and the person I'm on a date with tonight." Some people around us laughed, some raised their glasses, and others simply took note of this new fact. No secrets, no substitutes, and no one had to wait half a year. Once we entered the banquet hall, Adrian let go of my hand and let me go ahead to look at the project display boards. I took a few steps, then turned back. "For Friday's dinner, I'll pick that little restaurant by the lake." "Okay, don't reserve a private room." He looked at me. "Are you sure?" "I'm sure." The ice on the lake outside the window was melting, and the soft sound of water drifted in from the terrace. I used to think that being publicly chosen meant standing by someone's side, letting everyone know who I belonged to. Later, I came to realize that true openness isn't about being displayed by someone else. It's about not having to hide my name, not having to scale back my life, and not having to trade love for silence. I can walk alone into a brightly lit hall, and after finding freedom, I can choose to have someone walk beside me.